Good morning. Today is February 2nd, 2023, and it's our last day here. And I hope you enjoy the footage. Okay.
Alright, so another impromptu, extemporaneous presentation, this time not on an airplane. The National Museum of the Air Force, United States Air Force, has some amazing additional artifacts and descriptions, and one of them is here on the Holocaust, and it's well worth taking some time to review. Remember that there were Jews and non-Jews that were rounded up and put into concentration camps, prison camps, work camps, especially Soviet held territories were scooped up, just anybody they could, and forced into a workforce. Many others were conscripted all across Europe and put into these work camps. My stepfather was born in Brno, Czechoslovakia, and it's not depicted on the map, but he was the mayor when the Germans actually invaded Czechoslovakia, and while they do not consider it to be the start of World War II, probably should have been, because it was an armed invasion. The Czechs did put up some limited resistance. Basically, they appealed to Britain because they had a treaty with Britain that said if they were ever invaded, Britain was to come to their aid. However, the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flew to Munich, met with Hitler. They made an agreement that basically said, oh, it's okay, you can have Czechoslovakia if you promise not to do anything else bad. Chamberlain flew back to his country, announced peace in our time. There would be no war. There would be no negative fallout from the Germans taking over Czechoslovakia. They had forcibly relocated a lot of their own citizens into Czechoslovakia, created unrest among that immigrant population, and then demanded their own ways, their own rights. Oh, they needed somebody to come rescue them, so the Germans, quote unquote, had some legitimate reason for taking over the country. They began then to Nazify the entire country of Czechoslovakia. My stepfather's father was the mayor of Brno, and he did not hold with the Nazi party, so on Christmas Eve, the SS came into their home and arrested him. My stepfather's mother put up some resistance, and therefore she was arrested. The SS then burned down their house and forced my stepfather out in the snow in his slippers on Christmas Eve with an elderly housekeeper, where he carried her down to his grandparents' house down the street, told them what happened. His grandmother fainted. His grandfather checked into what was going on, and later then sent my stepfather on his way, which is an entirely another epic saga. But his parents were taken first to Theresienstadt, which was the model concentration camp that the Germans had, to portray to the Red Cross, International Red Cross, and the world that they were just basically relocating people, and it was all very humane and all good. They were then split up. His mother was taken to the Auschwitz system of camps, and there was more than one camp. There was a central camp, many camps, and many work camps that surrounded Auschwitz. She survived that long ordeal because, one, she was not Jewish. Two, she had a trade. She was a seamstress before the war, and so the Germans forced her into uniform repair and insignia patches, that kind of seamstress type work. His father was taken from Theresienstadt and was taken to Buchenwald. After the war, stepdad found out that he had been shot, and my stepfather was able to rescue his mother from what was called a displaced persons camp, because as the Russians advanced, the Germans took some of the prisoners that were still alive and well enough to travel in trains away from Auschwitz until they got kind of out from underneath their command structure, and then they just simply abandoned the prisoners out in the middle of nowhere in the snow. But many of them did get into a displaced persons camp, and was able to rescue her from there. So, you know, that's one story out of at least 12 million. So you look at a map like this and you start to think of all the concentration camps and the sub-camp system that was around them and the work camps. Then also, you know, Operation Tote, where the Germans used really basically slave labor, conscripted labor, to build all of the Atlantic Wall, airfields and other emplacements and things all across Europe. You're talking about a lot of people, so one story out of very many. Museums like this give you kind of a sense and a big picture glimpse at what that looked like and continue to remind us of that story.